Greetings from a beer ferry. As you can see behind me, we've got snow on the mountain. So that means winter's right around the corner. And it's time for me to brew up my special holiday spice ale. Here are some of the ingredients. We've got 5 pounds of lager malt extract. We have 3 pounds of powdered dry malt extract. We have oats, which will smooth out the flavor, give it a better mouthfeel. And we've got fresh hops in these hop socks here. I think they're Cascade hops, by the way, but usually you can use a good English style hop in the meantime, like a Kent Goldings or a Fuggles. Then I've got our spices here, which is orange peel that has had the pith removed. Why? Why are we getting pithed off? Because the pith is very, very bitter and adds off flavors. So we just want the outer skin of the orange peel. We also have some slivered ginger. You can grate both of these if you want, but it's more difficult to strain it out after you've finished your batch. We've got some honey to dry out the flavor of the beer. And then finally, we've got our liquid yeast. This is Y Yeast liquid yeast, and it's their Irish ale. I've tried numerous different types of yeast on this holiday spice ale. This one is by far the best. First, we want to heat our water, not to a bubbling boil, but to one that has a lot of steam evaporating. Then shut it off. Then we're going to add our malt and oats to the pot. Oats are optional, but they add a silkiness to the texture of the beer when drinking. A cup of whole oats and simmer them in a separate pot of water at 140 degrees for 20 minutes. Drain out the spent oats, add the oat liquid to your kettle, add the malt and honey. So the first thing we want to do is add our malt extracts. This is our liquid malt extract, and over there is our dry malt extract. This is basically like a molasses maple syrup, and it's very sweet. So what I've done is I've shut off the heat to the pot. I got the water very hot, but I want to turn the heat off so I don't scald the bottom of the pot with my malt extract. So I'm going to add this in. Stuff is really gooey and sticky. And once I finish with this, I'm going to take my ladle and I'm going to take some of the hot water and put it in the pouch to get the remainder of the malt extract out. Our next ingredient is going to be the dry malt extract powder. This is a lighter Pilsner. We're going to stir this in with our ladle. And this stuff has a tendency to clump up a little bit. You want to get rid of the big clumps, but don't beat it too much because the heat will wind up dissolving some of the smaller clumps. So now we're going to start our timer at 50 minutes. I've got this set on a low setting. We want a rolling boil. We don't want a very heavy boil on this one. So again, for the low setting, I'm going to drop one of the hop socks in right now. And we'll give it a good dunk. A little stir. And we're going to leave this one alone for another 20 minutes. So I want to illustrate to you what a good rolling boil looks like. Don't have anything boiling over the edge of the pot. But now we're going to add our final ingredients with 10 minutes left in the boil. We've got the rest of our hops. I'll put those in, soak them up real good. and our orange peel and ginger slices. We want to add these at the end of the boil because if we add them too early, then you lose that citrus and ginger taste. I've already added the last of the honey too. And we're going to let that sit for 10 minutes, turn off the heat, and let it cool down. We've added all our ingredients and completed the hour-long boil. Now it's time to prep the mix for fermentation. We lost our light outside, but the good news is that we've basically boiled up this batch of beer, or what they call wort, before it gets fermented. So you got the sweet juice here, and what we need to do is we need to transfer this into a fermenter. You take this warm liquid, and we need to cool it down. So what I've done is put it in this fermenter here with about 1/2 to 3/4 ice in there. So I've transferred the wort, the hot wort, to the bucket here and cooled it down. We want to get it to about 60 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit because we're going to pitch the yeast. And the yeast is a living organism. So we want to make sure that the environment it's going into is not too hot and not too cool. We're going to pitch it now. And then we're going to give it a good stir. I'm using a slotted spoon so it gets plenty of oxygen in there so the yeast can ferment and turn the simple sugars into carbon dioxide and alcohol. Now going to cover the fermenter, and we're going to let it sit for about 10 to 14 days, and then we'll have some beer. So it's been 2 weeks, and the wort that we boiled up has now turned into beer. What we're doing now is we're transferring from the fermenter to a separator here, and the goal here is to separate the yeast from the beer. So the yeast will wind up in this bucket here, and the rest of the beer will go into here. Then we're going to take this bucket and we're going to put it into our keg, carbonate it, let it sit for a couple of days, get cold, and then it's time to drink some cold beer. We're ready to put the fermented beer in the keg. If you would like this written recipe, please go to www.beerfairytales.com's main page and click on the recipe icon. So we've transferred our beer and separated the yeast out. So we've got beer in here, we're transferring it to our Cornelius keg. Once this is filled, we're going to charge it with carbon dioxide, let it sit for a couple of days, get it cold, and drink it. What I did is I poured a little bit off just to taste it, see how it came out. It's a little bit hazy, like a hazy IPA, but it needs to settle. Let's give it a sniff for aroma. Ginger and citrus spices for sure. Let's give it a taste. It's a young beer that needs to age a little bit. Ginger is definitely there, and so are the other spices. Give this one about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and it should be a real winner.